What's happening, Go community? This week, Zack and I are bringing in Chad Cusick from the Go team to talk about our favorite video game box art and also whether or not they sell us on actually purchasing the game. Zack has been playing the latest DLC for Control as well as the Xbox One version of Deliver Us the Moon. And you'll also hear a couple of reviews from Rel. He played a game called Filament. It's a great little puzzle game. And a game called The Shattering that's very atmospheric and sounds super interesting. In news, there's a massive leak for Last of Us Part 2, so be careful as you're perusing the internet. And then we're also going to talk about IGN's answer to no E3 this year. Let's get this thing rolling. This is the Gaming Outsider. Greetings, programs, and welcome to episode 292 of The Gaming Outsider, a video game podcast with a focus on our incredible community. It's Monday, April 27th. I'm your host, Scott Clark, and I'm joined, as always, by my fellow co-hosts. First off, a guy who is definitely excited about the upcoming release of Episode 9 on Disney+, Mr. Zack Parkerson.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I own it on Blu-ray two different ways right now, but may as well have a streaming option as well.
Yeah. May the 4th. They're releasing it on May 4th, which, you know, obviously makes sense.
Yes. Much more excitedly, they're doing that behind-the-scenes series on The Mandalorian.
Oh, I'm all over that. I want to watch that for sure.
Yeah, man, that sounds awesome. And the Clone Wars finale, same day. It's going to be a big day.
It is going to be a big day. I think I'm due for a rewatch of The Mandalorian at this point. I've only watched it the one time, and that needs to happen again.
Yeah, I've been itching to watch it through for my fourth time as well. Like, it's a good show. I don't like there's that one episode with all the pirates that I'm not too fond of. But otherwise, it's good. With Bill Burr, that
all right,
episode.
well, Zach.
Anyway.
I liked that episode.
Oh, really? It's the female Twi'lek is just so over the top. I find it hard to swallow.
Well, Zach, thanks again for being here. Also joining us, filling in for Chris Behrensmeyer, who is, I normally would say still out of this state, but he actually came back today. So Chris is back in town, but since he just arrived, we needed someone to fill in the chair, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome back to the show once again, a guy who has still not seen episode 9, but was gracious enough to bring me some movie popcorn this week, Mr. Chad Cusick. What's up, man?
Yeah, I'm always behind in the movies.
Yeah.
It's kind of a normal thing here.
Well, you do have young children. It makes it difficult, and plus there's no theaters right now.
Yeah, that did make it more difficult. The one chance I actually had to see it, my father-in-law and my brother-in-law went to go see it, but my wife, my kids, and everybody else in the family was going to see Frozen 2, and I kind of felt like going with the kids was more important than going to Star Wars at the time.
You were wrong. Being dad of the year.
I was waiting for someone to say it.
I wasn't going to say it, but Zach has no problem.
I saw Frozen 2. That was it felt like a straight to DVD movie that they put in the theater.
Really? I still haven't seen it.
It's on Disney Plus.
One of my, I know, but that's how much I don't want to watch it. And I really like the first Frozen movie. One of my students claims that is his favorite movie of all time.
Frozen 2?
Frozen 2.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Hey, man. I will never disparage somebody's favorite.
But oh, no, not at all. It's just, but even after that glowing recommendation, I still just don't really want to see it. I don't know why. Maybe I'll do that. But there's so much other good stuff to watch.
Yeah,
right
you
now.
you don't need to.
So how's everybody doing? Yes? Good? No?
Going crazy.
You're going crazy? Are you still working from home, Chad?
Yeah, actually, I have permission tomorrow to go visit a customer for the first time in 6 weeks.
Are you just like chomping at the bit to go out and actually travel a little bit?
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, definitely need to get out.
Yeah.
Too many walls.
Do you need to stay 6 feet away from your client at all times?
I will be required to wear a mask and probably should do that, but we'll see how it goes.
So I had a unique experience with social distancing today. I had to pick up some things from Menards, in the landscaping or lawn and garden area of Menards. And I walk in the store, and I don't know what this is about. I didn't know this is a rule, but apparently you are not allowed to bring anything from the lawn and garden area to the register to purchase it. They have like yellow tape all over all the shelves. They've got these big yellow signs that say due to whatever mandate from whatever organization in the state of Illinois or whatever, or maybe it's federal government, I don't know. So you have to go on the website or go to like a kiosk and get someone to make out an order for, like if you buy like big orders of lumber at Menards, you have to like print out a sheet and then drive around to the back and pick it up. You basically have to do that. I had to do that for a little bag of grass seed and a bottle of weed killer. I had to go through all that. It took me about 20 minutes to get those two things. And what's even funnier is I had to drive back behind to get it. I had to get out of my car and go take it off the shelf myself and then put it in my car and drive out. It was the weirdest thing. I'm not knocking it. There's probably some legit reason for it. I just don't know what it is. And I could not make any sense of what it was.
Wow, man. Here in Kansas City, people are just not wearing masks anymore. They're fed up. I haven't seen gloves in eons. People just don't care anymore here.
Yeah, my wife's sister has been making masks, and I've been wearing one because she just insists on it. I mean, I kind of feel like I should anyway, although it's not mandated here till the 1st. And people sure give you funny looks if you're wearing a mask. The people that aren't wearing a mask kind of look at you. You can kind of feel them looking at you out of the corner of their eye.
See, I feel the other way. I feel like when I'm not wearing a mask, I feel like the a-hole.
Really?
Because I feel like I probably should. There's no real reason other than your own pride or ego to not do so.
Well, that's the thing is I was worried about it at first, but then I realized my face is covered in a mask. No one's going to know who I am. You're the Batman.
There's definitely people out there who don't think the mask is required because of their personal assessment of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So you might be a little bit out of the norm on that side, Zach.
No, I mean, the only reason not to wear it is selfishness. Because even if you don't believe in it, air quotes, and you think the government is shutting down the economy for fun, it doesn't hurt you to put on a mask.
Hey, Michael Jackson did it.
Sure.
I forgot about that. What was his reasoning for that? I don't even remember.
I don't know if he was just trying to hide his face or not. I know with his kids, he was actually trying to hide their identities. But
right.
For him, I don't know if he was just a paranoid person or not, but it seemed like an appropriate reference. I don't know.
It didn't take us long to get off a
tangent. I've been using my Aiden Pierce face mask from the Watch Dogs Collector's Edition.
That actually came with one?
Yeah, because he puts that little scarf face mask on in the game. Yeah, coming with that. I was like, finally, I have a use for this.
That's pretty funny. The one my sister-in-law made me, she actually made out of material that had video game controllers on it. So I am walking around with pastel-colored game controllers on my face, which is fun.
Your identity might not be as hidden as you think, then.
Possibly. Oh, he's wearing video game stuff? That's Scott Clark, for sure.
Gotta be Scott Clark of the Gaming Outsider.
Of the Gaming Outsider. I wonder where the rest of the Gaming Outsider is. Oh, no, wait. It's Scott Clark and the Gaming Outsider.
They're superfluous.
All right, well, let's go ahead and jump into the week's news. This first story dropped today, and don't worry, we are not going to spoil anything. I haven't even seen anything to be spoiled, although I know Zack has, unfortunately. But the story circulated today that some spoilers for The Last of Us Part 2 have leaked. And I believe it was the entire game, and it sounds like it might have been leaked by some disgruntled employees, some people at Naughty Dog that are upset with the working conditions over there. So you may want to avoid the internet like the plague for the next 2 months. What is it, April? Yeah, 2 months, because they did also give it a release date of June 19th that the game will be releasing. Zach, I know that you've seen this spoiler-tastic information. Is it everywhere, or is it? Can you avoid it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it must not. If you haven't seen it, I feel like we travel in similar circles. I mean, I'm more of a PlayStation guy, I guess, but I feel like I saw it like 30 times this morning
Oh, really?
I reported no less than 7 accounts to Twitter. So they did email me, let me know that they did violate the terms and are receiving punishment. So I feel a little proud of being a tattletale on that one.
Nice.
But I mean
I think that's.
What, Chad?
I think it's pretty crazy that you saw it that many times in that short of period. I haven't seen it yet, but I've also been avoiding some of the internets, I guess.
Yeah, I have to imagine it's just because I follow so many PlayStation developers and PlayStation accounts. Because anytime, like Herman Holst, the head of the Worldwide Studios, posts something, and all the comments are just a spoiler, and some people just straight up posting the video, because the video of the spoiler leaked as well. So yeah, I've seen it a lot.
So how bad of a spoiler was it?
Yeah, that's what I want to know,
people are pretty angry, and it sounds like they might be justified.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say, I don't know. To me, it felt like it's so obvious a plot point that it hasn't ruined my excitement at all. Like people are freaking out. I would say if you did not expect this plot point, I don't know what you were expecting. So I would say definitely avoid it. But if you do come across it, I don't think it'll ruin your week or anything.
So does it feel like a early game spoiler or a potentially end game spoiler?
I would say based on what they said the length of this game is, it feels probably like, I would assume this is how Act 1 of the game ends. How about that?
Okay.
Like, this is probably what sends Ellie on her journey or whatever.
Now, since you've seen so much information about this, maybe you can answer this better, because I was trying really hard not to read anything on it because I didn't want to accidentally read something. I know, like, I read an article on IGN that straight up said, we will not be spoiling the information. You won't read it here, but here's a story about how it happened. And, but even that article didn't really answer the question. Is this people that are angry from Naughty Dog's team?
Yeah, I mean, I did investigate afterwards, because what did I have to lose now?
Right.
And yeah, I mean, it pretty much sounds like a grouping. People seem to think it's like a group because of so much data was leaked. Because apparently, like, the cinematics from the first 6 to 8 hours of the game were all put online on Reddit and Reset Era and stuff, which is a huge chunk of data.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I feel like it's probably multiple people. Yeah, but it seems like disgruntled employees, there have been many articles written about Naughty Dog's horrific working conditions. There is that, that I told you about a couple weeks ago, that animation director at Naughty Dog, who they forgot to have sign his NDA on the way out, who has just been telling horror stories of how terrible it is. It's the worst job he's ever had, etc. So it doesn't surprise me. I mean, it sucks that they did this because it affects the fans, but also, like the industry has kind of told you have no recourse for fighting against crunch and horrible working conditions, because this is so publicly known and written about. I mean, maybe going after the fans is the only way to get some attention,
Well, I think it hurts more than just the fans, too. I mean, it kind of hurts the people that are still working there, that are still working on the game, or have put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this. And even if the working environment sucks, they're still proud of what they've done.
Right.
And part of that pride falls under, how that game is brought to the public and how people are going to experience it. And now, by releasing videos containing major spoilers in the first part of a game like that, ruins the experience for a good amount of people out there that, might accidentally see it like you did, or might also, people just like spoilers sometimes.
Yeah, no, and I'm not, let me clarify, I do not agree with what they did. I think it's a dick move, you could say. I was saying, if you want to get the attention of your bosses who have just chosen to ignore what a lot of people seem to think of is a bad thing for the industry. I mean, I saw so many comments after being spoiled of just, well, I guess I won't buy the game now. And if that's true, then you've affected your boss in the only way they care about, which is their pocketbooks. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
I'm not saying I agree with it, but I understand.
Is that
Chris Rock
is that a vocal minority, though?
Who won't? Yeah, I'm sure it is.
I mean, people say, well, I'm not going to buy it. and then it comes out and they buy it anyway.
Yes. No, I agree with you. I'm just saying, how many articles has Jason Schreier written about horrible working conditions of the video game industry?
Mm-hmm.
And nothing has changed. It just feels the tactics are going to evolve until something does change.
Right.
And if you can't hurt the developers, you can hurt the fans. That's just another tactic. Though it's escalating is what I'm positing.
Do you think, and I don't want to downplay the whole thing because I understand that the working conditions are bad, or they're allegedly bad. I'm not saying, I don't say that to doubt that they are. I'm just,
tell you what, there are you still hear a lot of developer stories who say they enjoy the crunch, or that the game would not happen without crunch, etc. Or that their best ideas happened when they were exhausted and had to throw something against the wall. Like, there are those stories too.
Right. But is there any chance whatsoever, and again, I'm not trying to downplay the seriousness of the situation, but is there any chance that this whole thing is a stunt? And when the game and it's just to get people talking about it, and when the game comes out, this quote-unquote leaked scene is not even in the original game, it doesn't go that way, and that will be the surprise when you play the game and it's something different than what we thought because of this quote-unquote leak.
Well, I appreciate your tinfoil hat theory, because that would work out for me, because the spoiler people are upset about is so boring and trite that it does. I'm like, oh, maybe we didn't need the story after all. Like, that's how boring it is.
Right.
I don't know, that sounds like an opposite of a marketing strategy you would want to approach.
Isn't any press good press, Chad?
No. We're not athletes or people of fame. We're talking about a game. Personalities get away with it because it keeps them in the newspaper like an athlete, but game, they need positivity around it.
Was it Naughty Dog like a personality kind of thing? Don't they also have a cult of personality?
Well, that's what we hear about.
Right.
I don't know. I'm not suggesting that. I'm not saying that's what I really think. I'm just kind of throwing it out there to be like, could this be a weird marketing thing? I don't know. I think there's enough interest in Last of Us 2 already. But could you imagine if, again, without knowing what the spoiler is, if whatever is spoiled is as trite as you were claiming it is, then they go back and release the game and it's not that way. It would be kind of interesting. And then people will be talking about it at that point. Oh, that whole thing was a fake. Now I really got to get it and see what the difference is. You guys are looking at me like I'm crazy.
It's an interesting thought. I just think that not many people are actually going to be turned away because of this. I think it's still going to do just fine.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to affect it that negatively in the long run. People are just angry at first because we always react with emotion. And we come back down to earth, and you'll probably have more people like Zack saying, well, it's just a small tidbit that might be early in the game. I'm moving on.
I mean, the timing would make sense for that. They could be anticipating that reaction, and the game is still just under 2 months out before release. Could make sense in terms of everybody being done being upset about it and realizing there's more to the game than just that one story beat. Again, I'm speaking from a place of ignorance because I don't know what the spoiler is. And I'm still going to try really hard not to.
I almost wish you did. Tell you what, you probably already know and don't know that you know. That's how obvious it is. How about that?
Okay. So are people making a bigger deal about it being a spoiler than...
I mean, it is a spoiler. And if it really was like the first 6 hours of the game's worth of cinematics, that's a huge leak.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's definitely worth getting riled up about. And it is,
but
again...
you also have to sit down and watch 6 hours of footage. It's not, it's not like a one image that I accidentally saw on Twitter.
Well, I think the actual cinematics is less. It's like just from the original Reddit post, from what I gathered, because they've all been deleted, people said that the leaker said that these cinematics are all from the first 6 to 8 hours of the game. So I think the actual cinematics are 2 hours, 2.5, whatever.
That's still a lot to sit through if you've already realized it's a spoiler.
Yeah, but you have malicious people out there that are only scanning it exclusively for the spoiler things so they can post it in response to release date tweets like PlayStation's tweets, because there's a lot of I don't know. I assume everybody who's spoiling it maliciously is a teenager who doesn't know how to work their emotions yet. It's the only thing that makes sense.
Makes him feel powerful.
Right. Yeah, you have control over something in these unprecedented historic times. Anyway, bottom line,
indeed.
The leakers are dicks. And
bunch of Richards.
And it sucks. Even though, I don't know. I still wish I hadn't seen it. How about that? It's just, now that I know it, I know, it would have driven me crazier trying to avoid it. And then to finally be like, oh, and that's what it was? Like, it would have annoyed me if I went out of my way for weeks to try to dodge it and then saw it, and I was like, oh, that's what I was worried about?
See, now I don't know what to do, because I'm still going to be looking at Twitter for the next few days, and this is only the first day. I first read about this whole thing at all maybe 6 hours ago, and I've lasted 6 hours without seeing it. How long do I bother?
Just go to Twitter mute words and mute Last of Us Joel Ellie. That should probably cover most of your bases, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But then I can't see anything that has to do with the word Joel, which I guess is pretty broad.
Yeah.
Or Ellie.
It's difficult. Anyway, let's go ahead. That's such a crazy story. I can't believe that that some people that work there would actually do that. I mean, they worked on it too.
Yeah.
You know, it's
I didn't ever link you to this animation director's Twitter, did I, Scott?
No, you didn't. You said you were going to.
Yeah, remind me to do that, because I think after you read his Twitter, you'd be like, okay, I can see why people would feel like doing this. I'm surprised he didn't do it, honestly. How mad that guy is about that job.
Especially since he didn't sign anything.
Right, yeah. Oh, and then also
are these people that are still... Oh, yeah. Are these people that are still working there, or are these, again, former employees?
I could not really figure it out. Some people said that the leakers said they still work there, and then some people said the leakers said that they grabbed the files on the way out, so I really do not know.
Anyway, I cut you off. Go ahead. What were you saying?
Oh, I was because and also they announced Ghost of Tsushima coming out July 17th. Iron Man VR still in limbo.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised those are coming that soon, honestly. I really was expecting Last of Us 2 to be kind of an indefinite fall, maybe winter, maybe 2021 thing.
I thought Last of Us was going to leapfrog Tsushima.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would have assumed. We were wrong.
Especially since they canceled pre-orders. They didn't, they actually refunded people's money for Last of Us 2. So now those people got to go pre-order again. That's interesting to me. Huh?
Yeah, it's kind of a drastic measure for like a 3-week delay? 4-week delay?
I don't remember when the original date was now. It was May, right?
Yeah, I thought it was like May 25th or something, but I can't remember.
So yeah, it's kind of interesting. I am shocked it's that quick. Anyway, next story. On to happier news. If you like Fortnite anyway, this is happier news. I thought this was kind of clever. And the only reason I even thought to mention it is I actually experienced it secondhand. But you guys remember a while back, Fortnite had a concert with that DJ that goes by the name Marshmello. My students know who he is. I'm not a big fan, but are you familiar with the artist?
Yeah, he's in the Spider-Man soundtrack, Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, he's got Happier. Is that his song?
Yeah, my kids have been listening to him a lot lately for some reason, or at least that one.
So a few months ago, he did a concert within Fortnite where everybody gathered to watch him do a performance, and it wasn't really him, but it was a image that looked like him, and he was performing, and it was music, and it was a party. And so, again, here's why I bring it up. I was over at Baronsmeyer's house this week. I've been helping his wife with some yard work, and I had to be on a conference call for school, so I asked her if I could sit at their dining room table away from everybody and be on this conference call so I didn't have to go home and do it and then drive back and keep on working. And she's like, yeah, that's fine. So Chris's son is in the next room playing Fortnite, and he's just getting ridiculously excited. Something's going to happen, and I'm, getting set up for my conference call and just half listening. And he's like, I think they're going to do a concert again. I think there's going to be another concert. And sure enough, it was another concert. There's a rapper by the name of Travis Scott that did this artist. and I recognize the name, but I'm not an R&B or rap fan personally, so I wouldn't have known. But have you guys seen any of the videos of how this concert worked?
Yep. I watched, I don't know, a good 20 minutes or so.
It's kind of mesmerizing, isn't it?
They did a really good job with it, dude. I think Pink Floyd would be proud.
Yeah, it felt like a Pink Floyd level type situation. And Zach, I know you're not a big music guy, so you're by proxy not a concert guy. But if you were a fan of music, this would be something that's pretty cool because you have full control of your character as a viewer of this. Basically, Travis Scott is projected as like a hologram, like a 200-foot hologram, and you still have full control to run around. You can't attack people or anything like that. But at some point, he makes every player in the world have the ability to fly. So you can fly around Travis Scott while he's singing and rapping. And then at some point, you're underwater. And it's like this psychedelic, I don't know what you call it, just artistic thing, which when you realize that all this was the Epic put this together while working from home, I was really impressed. Like, I'm trying not to be the old guy that's just like, this is stupid. This is, go see a real concert, even though we can't right now. I thought it was really cool.
No, it was fun. I mean, like you mentioned the part where they're flying, it actually goes with the lyrics of what he's doing in a way. But as your character's flying, you're kind of going through outer space, and the image of Travis is sitting on a planet, and he's surrounded by a bunch of little moons, and the planets and the moons are all beeping the beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you have like this visual of the beat coming at you while he's rapping, and all this stuff going on in the background at the same time. So it's really well done, really well thought out. I mean, the transitions, they make the world explode during some of the transitions, so it whites out, and then all of a sudden he's in the new area. Now you're underwater. So it was fun. I'm not a Fortnite player, but I would have watched it.
I'm kind of upset that I didn't know it was happening, and I don't even think I have Fortnite installed anymore, but I totally would have gone to check it out just to see what it looked like. I don't know.
They had over 48 million interactions with like the 27 some million people that watched it.
Yeah, because they did
by the way.
They did it 5 times, right?
Yeah.
So you could go back and experience it again if you wanted to. I don't know. They were selling. You got some kind of cosmetic item in Fortnite as well too, which is the digital equivalent of like I got the T-shirt of the concert I went to kind of thing to prove I was there, which is kind of cool. It's got some exclusivity, and I think they even sold some DLC, which is probably how they funded it, because Fortnite's free. It doesn't cost you anything to be there. But musicians can't make money at concerts and selling band T-shirts and everything like that. Found another way to do it. I'm fascinated by the story. Zach, you look like you couldn't be any less interested in this whole concept.
I do not know who Travis Scott is. I think I've been to 2 concerts in my life.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't. I mean, it's super cool. It's a neat thing they did. Was he rapping live into the microphone?
I don't know. I can't tell if it was pre-recorded and they just made it around it, or if they made the imagery and then had him sing it live, because there's no way to tell. There's no like actual video inside Fortnite. If there were, it would stand out it would stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, but I mean, either way,
don't know.
Fortnite continues to be a wild, wacky experiment that they're not afraid to take chances on, and that's always cool. I just,
Well, it says something when you can shut down your entire game for 15 minutes for people to watch an impromptu concert, and you get over 27 million unique visitors going through.
Yeah. I think
by shutting the game down.
I read said that the next highest game that's had the most concurrent players online at one time was like 1.3 million people. And Fortnite had 27.7 million people. I mean, granted, there's a pandemic happening right now, and there's a lot of kids not in school right now. And they all talk to each other, so I mean that makes sense. It's kind of genius.
And they all seem to play Fortnite.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to find a kid that plays video games that does not play Fortnite.
Right. And it feels like you can find kids that don't play video games but do play Fortnite.
Yeah. That's a good point too. It's just become a social thing at this point.
Right.
So, Anyway, I thought that story was kind of cool. Last one I got, we don't have any conventions this year. E3 is canceled, GDC is canceled, all that. But IGN is holding what they're calling a Summer of Gaming event this June. And this is a quote from their site. The event will include live broadcasts and on-demand programming featuring IGN's editorial coverage of the work of game developers from around the world. So basically, they're trying to do a digital mini E3, if you will. And the reason it caught my eye is they just added CD Projekt Red to the lineup. So they're going to be on this online interactive show showing off Cyberpunk 2077. And there's other developers included as well, including 2K, Square Enix, Sega, Bandai Namco, Amazon, Google Stadia, Twitter, Devolver Digital, THQ Nordic, and more. Do you guys think this is a decent replacement for E3, or are we just going to wait for 2021?
It's nice somebody's trying to do something. Doesn't really... as we discussed last week, I suppose, IGN's coverage doesn't really trip my trigger, so I don't have a lot of faith in what they'll construct, honestly. But we'll see.
Is there another outlet you would prefer to see do something like this?
Boy.
The Gaming Outsider?
The Gaming Outsider would obviously be the smart choice, yeah. There's no question. I don't know. I guess the only two sites that could really pull something off of this size is IGN and GameSpot, right? And I would say, I guess I would prefer GameSpot of the
Check
two.
News?
Sure. I don't know. An Easy Ally is a kind of funny. So one of these YouTube people might be smart, but I don't know. Hey, thank God CD Projekt Red's there. That seems to be the only developer that matters in the world anymore. So bring him in.
It is weird because I honestly couldn't even tell you what's coming from the other developers.
Well, Square Enix has Avengers.
Again. That's true. Yeah.
Otherwise,
again, that's a game I'm just ready to play. Like I don't need to see anymore. I know I'm going to play it.
Agreed. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. I don't know. What does Sega have coming up?
Yeah.
I'd like to see Sega get back into games. I miss their games. Sorry.
Wouldn't you love to see Sega just go back and go back to the drawing board and just make 16-bit games again? I mean, they sell, right? Just make some solid. Just throw out a whole bunch of them,
and just even do Sonic. Headline it with Sonic Mania 2, and then be like Comic Zone Mania, Golden Axe Mania.
Sega Mania.
I mean, I think you're actually being serious. I think that stuff would sell like crazy. Like you put like a AA budget into something like that and sell it for $40. That stuff would sell. We're speculating again about, but anyway, I thought that was pretty interesting.
Are you excited, Scott, for the IGN Summer of Gaming event?
I mean, I'm excited in that it's all I'll have since there's not going to be any E3 coverage. It's going to be something it's going to be the only source of information for a while outside of things just released. It's going to be the next best thing to a convention. That's all I've got. So, of course, I'll watch it. Especially if it's an all-day thing, I can just turn on my television and just have nonstop stream of video game stuff at me all day long while I'm farting around on my laptop or whatever. Yeah, dude. Better than a podcast.
I wouldn't go that far.
Here's a question I wanted to ask you guys, though, about this, because I was listening to another podcast today, and they were talking about how not having conventions like GDC and E3 is going to affect the games industry. And one thing that I was thinking about is, you know how E3 is kind of like the pinnacle. It's a lot of people are coinciding the announcement of their game or the reveal of their game at a thing like E3 or at a thing like GDC or at a game like TGS. So now they don't have to do that. It's almost like the shackles are off with some of these developers, that they're not tied down to a specific date or a specific 3 dates that they have to choose between to release either the announcement of their game or the footage for their game at that time. Because think about it, if you think there's a reason that we look at the calendar for when a game releases, because they don't want to overlap with another big title, right? That's, you don't want to release a game the same week as Last of Us 2 because no one's going to look at your game because they're looking at this one, or you're going to split that. Half the people are going to buy it now and half the people are going to buy the other game. So now we don't have like these time crunches of when they can do it. They can release this information whenever they want to because they're not going to miss out on having to release it at E3. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
I get your point in the fact that they're going to create their own schedule, so it might be a little less stress.
Mm-hmm.
But you also miss out on the giant marketing opportunity that is E3, where you have so many people at one place at one time. So what you're going to have to hope from this is that you have the people still coming to one place at one time to make it as effective as your conventions or whatever.
Yeah, I feel like E3 was helpful for, the big guys don't need to be there, but the mid-tier guys, it's kind of a high tide raises all boats kind of thing. You kind of ride the coattails of PlayStation's big announcement. Now people are looking at gaming news like, oh, wait, Vampire 2? Oh, okay.
That's actually what I was going to say, Zach, is I almost wish, or what I would rather see from a digital event like this, from a place like IGN or GameSpot or one of these bigger outlets, is I would like to see an all independent developer showcase kind of thing, where they're interviewing developers of these smaller games that we're all going to be interested in playing, and maybe even some top tier ones. Like, I know I'm a big fan of Rogue Legacy. Bring in Cellar Door Games, talk about how they made the first one, and do some interviews with that, and then use that as a time to show off the footage for Rogue Legacy 2. Bring in these smaller developers that we've all been playing their games. Some of our favorite games from the last couple of years, Zach, have been from independent developers. Bring in Joaquin Sandberg.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, because you're dying to see what he's cooking up next, right?
Right, absolutely. And then I liked your idea of Celador talking about making the first Rogue Legacy. Make it an event that kind of celebrates, the legacy. Because E3 is so focused on the future, laser focused on the future. Uses the opportunity to let indie games kind of tell their stories.
That would make for quality television. I mean, I guess that's what YouTube is doing now. I mean, how many podcasts out there are on retro gaming, and that's kind of the focus. But there's not like a live television thing for that anymore. And I think a lot of fans would appreciate that. And then sprinkle in the announcements. You have like an all day long video game awards. You know what I mean? Where Video Game Awards is only 30% about the actual awards themselves, and the rest is about game announcements and celebration of the industry. Make it an all online, all day long, or all weekend long celebration of gaming from past to present, and sprinkle in these announcements in between and interviews. I would be all over that.
Yeah, make it happen, Scott. Scott Clark in the summer of gaming.
Yes. I don't have the manpower or the resources to pull that off on my own, but
no, yes, I do not. I don't think we're there quite yet.
I would love to do that. It sounds like so much fun. Just so much fun to watch. We mention it all the time. I remember how many times did we watch reruns of video game television? And if you just give me an all day long of fresh content, of even sprinkling old stuff and new stuff, I love it. Let's make our own G5. How about that? It's a sequel to G4.
Deal. Done.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on. We are an independently funded podcast, which means we must pay for our podcast hosting services, website, everything, all on our own, which is why we have a Patreon page where fans can contribute money to help offset the cost of production, as well as give back to the community. If you'd like to help us out, you can do so at patreon.com/thegocast. We don't have any new patrons this week, but guess what? We have some new content coming for you. All of our patrons at the $3 a month level get access to every single one of our bonus episodes. And currently, what we've got available for you is a spoiler cast that I sat down with Zack and also Brandon Smith and Patrick Klein from our community. The four of us sat down and talked about Final Fantasy VII Remake. About an hour was it, Zack?
Yeah, and we probably could have kept going another 3.
I could have easily gone for at least one more hour. I was kicking myself for certain moments that we didn't talk about in the spoiler cast that I was like, I should have mentioned that. And we just kind of ran out of time. But it was a lot of fun. So if you have finished Final Fantasy VII, you will not want to miss that. It's a lot of fun. Also, I am recording an episode with Nate, our producer, Break the Seal episode on Super Metroid, which he finished, I believe, today for the first time ever. I replayed it this past week, and guys, that game still holds up. Holds up real well. I'm looking forward to sitting down.
I, for one, am fascinated to hear about somebody playing Super Metroid for the first time in 2020.
Are you going to join us?
Oh, I don't know. Oh, I don't know if I'm well versed enough in the Super Metroid world.
Okay.
But I would certainly listen.
Yeah, it's been really difficult because I actually talk to Nate on a daily basis. It's really hard to not talk about it because I want to save the conversation for the podcast, for the Patreon episode. And I'm just chomping at the bit to hear what he thought about that game. So stay tuned for that. Next month, we've got some other good episodes coming as well. We are inviting David Newman from the community onto the show to talk about his first time playing the Uncharted games. He got the Uncharted collection and is playing through all of those games. He's also going to play through Uncharted 4. He's going to play Uncharted Lost Legacy.
Oof,
so he's kind of doing the whole full gamut. So stay tuned for that. And then Chad, our very own Chad, is going to sit down with us for a Retro Reminisce episode to play Chrono Trigger, which I started this month. I got a long ways to go. But I am enjoying that game as well.
So good.
It is good.
So good.
Anyway, if any of this sounds interesting to you, you'd like to check out and check out what we're doing and also help us out at the same time, please head over to patreon.com/thegocast. Like I said, $3 a month will get you access to everything that we offer. And we also do give back to the community. And speaking of giving back to the community, oh boy, do I have a surprise for you guys. We have some giveaways coming up this month that are going to blow your mind a little bit. We are not doing one. We're not doing two. We're doing 3 giveaways, either at the end of this month or the beginning of next month. First off, we're giving away a copy of Final Fantasy VII Remake, the original, not the special edition one, the original one. We are also giving away another $60 game.
You mean the standard edition of Final Fantasy VII Remake?
Standard edition of Final Fantasy VII Remake, yes.
You said original, made me think maybe the PS1 game.
Oh, no. Original, I'm not not buying you the PlayStation 1 game, no. The PlayStation 4 version of Final Fantasy VII Remake. We are also giving away another $60 game that we have yet to determine, and we are also giving away a $20 gift card. The last 2 prizes, the game and the $20 gift card, have been donated by an anonymous listener that actually specifically asked me to not mention his name on the show, or her name on the show.
Yeah, nice save.
So, 3 big giveaways coming up, and it'll be available to everybody, but as per usual, our Patreon subscribers will get an extra name in the jar when we draw names. So, does you good to help us out. With that, let's go ahead and jump into our From the Outside In topic. This week, we're talking about box art. I looked back, and I could not find an episode where we talked about box art. Kind of blew my mind. I could have swore we did, and maybe we did, and I just couldn't find the episode. But even so, it's time to go back because this is a great topic. We're going to compare some of the early days of box art, talk about ones from the present, talk about our favorites. But before we get to the actual favorites of ours and our listeners, I want to know, how much stock do you guys put into box art, and is that a big selling point for you or no?
It used to be. But now, tell you what, it used to be when you would do more browsing. You know what I mean? Like you would go into Hollywood Video and not know quite what's out. But now the internet makes all the information so available, it's hard to get entranced by box art. It also doesn't help that every single piece of box art looks the exact same nowadays.
That's true. You make a good point, and I feel like you're looking at my notes, because that's a lot of our listeners, when they responded to this question, they said, well, box art, absolutely. It helps me, because when I'm walking through GameStop, I'm looking at the cover, and that cover has to grab me to make me flip it over and look at it. I can't tell you the last time I went to a brick and mortar store and just like scanned the boxes to try to decide what to purchase. You know what I mean?
Right. And when I do go to GameStop, I still do that, where I browse the walls. but I don't know why I do it because I've heard of all of them.
Right.
You know,
It's just force of habit. You're in a video game store. That's what you want to do. You want to see if there's some hidden gem that you've never heard of that looks awesome.
right? And and I don't want to make it sound like, oh, I know everything about video games. It's just between this show and my own interests, it's hard for a box video game to escape my notice. You know, if it's going to be, if it's worth, if the publisher thinks it's a big enough deal to make a disc out of, odds are you and I have heard of it.
You know what's really funny? There's two places where I think the box art actually does matter to me. And one of them just hit me. The first one is whenever they show what games are available on Games with Gold or PlayStation Plus, or maybe even Humble Bundles. You know, when I get an email about Humble Bundle.
Okay, yeah.
Because that's where I may come across, there's another one. That's where I may come across a game that either slipped under my radar or I've never heard of before. And then I look at the box art and I go, I'm not even going to bother looking up a trailer for that game because that box art just does nothing for me. Or, that might be worth checking out. I'm going to look into that game a little bit more. That's the only times I can no, there's one other. The other is actually one that coincided with a listener's suggestion. Adam Zed over on, I believe this is Facebook. He said, box art plays a large role in me checking out Game Pass games. If it looks cool, I'll give it a try. No worries about not liking it. The description plays a larger part for me when purchasing, but box art has definitely got me to look further into games. I think things like Game Pass or PlayStation Now, where you've got 100+ games to go through and just see what's available, that is where a box art's going to matter to me because that's where I browse. Granted, I'm almost all digital now anyway, so...
I was going to say that is kind of like the store experience now. And you're also more likely to find some smaller game that you hadn't heard of.
Right.
I've been doing that more lately. Actually, now that you mention it, is looking for some of the smaller games that I haven't heard of through Game Pass. When I'm trying to find a new random role-playing game, I'll just pick up Game Pass, and you know what you're looking for with role-playing game covers. It's almost like they're always album covers because all the main characters on the front facing different directions and stuff. So it's easy to pick out what RPGs are from the box art.
Oh man, I wish there was a way that we could, I wish I knew an artist that we could just have them make box art because we all know games too well that if you show a game, you're going to know what the genre is just because you know the game. But make like mock box art and say, okay, tell me what kind of game this is. If you were to look at a JRPG box art without the name on it, without anything, you can look at that box art and go, okay, that's a JRPG. There's always somebody with a staff. There's always somebody pointing with magic or something like that, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, actually, I was going to bring it up with another game later, but if they happen to have some sort of like character or persona related to them, it's always shadowing them in the background of it.
Mm-hmm. So what about you, Chad? Do you take any stock in box art? Does that sell you on a game ever?
It used to more. Like I said, now with Game Pass, it does help. But as a kid, it definitely mattered more because it's more how I got to know about games. It wasn't all about the internet access and looking things up.
Mm-hmm.
I remember going down to Blockbuster to rent games, and you're perusing through the box art to see what's interesting just based on the cover.
Yeah.
Can you think of a noteworthy game that you hadn't heard of? You saw the box art and ended up maybe being one of your favorites or something like that?
Blue Dragon.
Oh. Okay.
And actually, Lost Odyssey was one I hadn't heard about. And one goofy little gem, I was hanging out with a buddy, spending the night at my house, probably 13 years old, rented a game on PlayStation called Street Racer. And the cover of it looked like some sort of knockoff goofy racing game with Looney Tunes like characters or whatever based on people. And that was exactly what it turned out to be. It was hilariously fun for an entire night. Like we played till like 5 a.m. My mom was going to kick him out of the house because we were so loud. But it's just because we saw the cover of the racers and it's like, this looks like it could be a good time.
That's awesome. I remember I rented a Blockbuster later in life, but when I was really young, like around 9, 10, 11, we went to a video store, and forgive me if I told you guys this story before, but it was called Video Age. I will never forget, bright yellow sign. It was off in this little corner of my hometown of Whitewater, Wisconsin. And Video Age, number one, had a very distinctive smell. I don't know what it was, if it was because it was a smaller store and it was VHS tapes and Nintendo cartridges. I freaking loved the smell of Video Age because it always smelled like I was about to have a good time, either watching a movie or playing a video game. And I will always forever correlate the smell of Video Age. It wasn't like a stinky smell. It wasn't bad. It was, I don't know. It was the adhesive on the Velcro they had, because the way they did it at Video Age. Nowadays, if video stores even exist anymore, but when I went to Family Video, they have the cover, and then behind it is a case that has the disc in it. And you bring that case up to the checkout, and then they scan it out for you and you go. Well, back in the day, before they trusted people a little bit more to not, or they had anti-theft deterrent stuff, you would just bring. What they had is they had a Velcro strip that went all along the bottom of it, and then they had this little plastic laminated piece that had one other piece of the opposite Velcro with the name of the game or movie on it, and they would stick it on there. And if you wanted to take that movie, you would rip that off the Velcro, take it up to the counter, and then they would go in the drawer and pull out the game or the movie or whatever out of the box and put it in a case for you and give it to you. Are either of you old enough to remember those days?
I'm not that exactly incredibly specific scenario, but yes, I do remember those kinds of days. That's how I remember. I don't know why this memory came to the forefront, but there was a Alien RTS game on Xbox, and I remember picking that up because I saw it in a video store.
Like Alien, the franchise Alien, or just
like Aliens.
Oh, okay.
That's also how I found Predator: Concrete Jungle. But yeah, those are two examples of the rental store, or of course renting Superman 64. I do remember that.
Glad I never did that.
The box art that stood out to me at Video Age, number one was Zelda 2, The Adventures of Link. That's right? Zelda 2 was Adventures of Link? Yeah. Because the first was Legend of Zelda. I don't know what it was about it. It was a very simple design. If you remember, it's just a gold cardboard box with a dagger, basically. And that was it. It just kind of at an angle. And I don't know why, I was fascinated by that box art, and I wanted to play that so bad. I think that was actually before I even played the original Legend of Zelda. So I hadn't played the original. I obviously hadn't played the second one. The other one that stood out, and this is so random, but there's a Super Nintendo game called Phalanx. Have either of you ever heard of Phalanx?
No.
Okay.
I've heard of the Roman attack.
I don't even know. Yeah, it's like a way that the soldiers line up or something, right? It's a formation, right?
Yes.
So Phalanx, when you play the game, it's actually a shmup, like either a vertical or horizontal shooter. I can't remember. I think it's horizontal. But the cover is a picture of an old guy with a beard playing a banjo.
Oh, did you share this on Discord?
Did I? I didn't.
Oh, okay. I saw this somewhere on the internet recently. Maybe it was when I was doing research for this episode.
And it's hilarious because he's just got this look on his face like, hey. And then in the background, over across like the black sky horizon, you see like a spaceship zooming past. And I don't know why, but I used to stare at that, and I never looked at the back of it. It was a weird thing to really know. I just was like, I want to know what that game is. Why is there an old guy playing a fiddle? And it's hilarious. It's like, what does that have to do with a shmup game?
Hey man, that's more interesting than any box art, of the PS3 to PS4 era.
That's kind of true. And that's the thing, is I was trying to do some research for this episode, and I found that the correlation between old games and new games are opposite. Like back in the day, the box art was incredible. Works of art, look like oil paintings and just these awesome epic.
Right. Oh, like Castlevania, man. That's a really great,
Right.
Castlevania had some of the best.
I actually had that one on my list, so I'll scratch that one off my list right now.
Well, you can still talk about it, but it's almost like a epic painting.
Yes. And then you play the game and it's just heavily pixelated, which when you're a kid, you don't care because that's all you had. And you were kind of filling in the gaps with your own imagination. It was fine. Nowadays, the games are looking much better, and I feel like the box art gets more generic. Now, there are exceptions to every rule. I was looking through, like, Halo 4. I was looking at the cover of Halo 4. It's just a picture of Master Chief.
Right,
but it's so detailed.
I feel like 90 to 95% of box art is the protagonist looking at the camera or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then if
holding a weapon.
If it's going to be a serious game, it's going to be real artful, the character is looking downwards.
I don't know. Fallout is just a power helmet.
Yeah, that's a good word.
It's pretty iconic. I mean, you know you're playing a Fallout game when you see one of those.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, look, man, I love Uncharted, but Uncharted 4's cover I think is one of the worst covers ever.
Which one is 4? 2 stands out to me as more memorable.
Yeah, well, 2 and 3 I think both had kind of cool covers. But Uncharted 4 is like Nathan Drake approaching the camera very somberly, his head's tilted down, covered in shadow, and it looks so serious, which is hysterical if you know the character Nathan Drake at all.
Right.
Because he looks like Joel from The Last of Us. Like that's how seriously he's carrying himself.
Right.
And it's just it's comical when you know the tone of Uncharted.
Uncharted in general, or do you think that Uncharted 4 was a little darker than the others?
I mean, it's a little darker, but it's still real jokey. It's still Nathan Drake. Like, he's still cracking wise while he's shooting people in the head.
Mm-hmm.
So that box art just always stood out as genuinely goofy to me.
Yeah.
even when I was, my thoughts on Uncharted 4 aside, even when I was excited for the game, that box art is wretched.
What's I didn't even have this on here. Can you think of like just some horrible box art, like ones that just like, what are you doing?
Sure. Well, I mean, obviously, Mega Man's the premier example, right?
Yeah, I had it in my head, but I didn't want to be the only one talking. So
there's no getting around. Arkham City's Game of the Year edition.
Oh, wait, real quick before you go on to that one. Speaking of the original box art for Mega Man, wasn't that in Resident Evil 3? Yeah,
there's an Easter egg that is just you find the office of one of the scientists, and his desk and wall is just littered with iconography of that version of Mega Man.
Like a life-size statue or something, isn't there?
It's there's like a statue on his desk. There's like 16 different posters of that character posed in different ways. It's real goofy.
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious. That makes me want to play that game even more. Anyway, I interrupted you. Go ahead. Batman.
Yeah, do you remember the Arkham City Game of the Year edition?
Is it the one where he's like wiping off his blood off of his mouth or something?
Yeah, and that's fine, but it's surrounded by a bunch of quotations like in stark red. That's like 10 out of 10, Game of the Year, 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10. And probably 80% of the box art is just that.
Oh, like things that are usually on the back of the box, not
it's
just the front of it.
All over the front. Yeah, and usually it's like 2 or 3 on the back, but it's about 20 on the front of the box.
Right. Yeah.
That was pretty awful. Especially because I think Arkham City's original cover art of just like, the kind of black and white thing they did for all their marketing.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a pretty classy cover. And then they wrecked it.
Yeah, it does kind of suck. You got plenty of stuff you could put on the cover of a Batman game without just boasting yourself the whole time.
There are no shortage of characters on which to put on the cover of the box.
Yeah.
Do you remember the original box art for Control before they finally put her on the cover? And what's her name? You've been playing it.
Oh, Jesse Faden.
Jesse Faden. Because the box art for the original version has Jesse Faden kind of like with her hand up and looking all serious. But the one before that, which was so non-descriptive of the game, it reminded me of the Metallica album Load. I don't know if you know what the album for
what
Load?
A specific. No, I do not.
Well, I can't describe what the album cover for Metallica's Load is on this podcast.
Is this is like the red background with like a triangle?
You're talking about for Control?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It was just it almost looked like the Evolve box art. Do you remember just like a mess of stuff? Although at least Evolve had its logo on it, so I'm not sure, but that was a terrible one. Yeah, there you go.
It kind of like
no, I did not remember seeing that.
Like fire and water bubbling together somehow in some weird way. almost looks like an amoeba too.
I don't think that's quite what they're referencing.
It's one of the worst descriptions ever, but hey, I tried.
Well, you could just say the name of the album gives away what it looks like.
Yes, there you go. It's exactly what it is.
Absolutely.
Anyway, any more awful? Oh, how about was it Bust-A-Move? There's a box art for one of the Bust-A-Move games where there's a guy that is holding his eyelids open with matchsticks, and that is the cover of the game.
I don't remember that one.
Not making it up. It's either Bust-A-Move or it's one of the Bubble Bobble.
It's not. Bust-A-Move generally has like a screenshot of the game. I know I have Bust-A-Move 2 on 64, and that's a game screenshot, basically.
I believe it is, Bust-A-Move 2. There's a picture of a guy's eyelids being held open with matchsticks. And it's
on the PlayStation version?
Yeah.
Apparently?
Yeah. That was bizarre.
That sounds awful.
That was weird. Anyway, we ready to go on and talk about the good ones, or do you guys have any more comments to make about...
Well, I guess CG Moore did have something to add here.
Mm-hmm.
Perusing GameStop and Bookman's shelves for a new game, the box art kind of becomes a pass-fail test. The cover has to get me to flip the case over and read the back. If it can't accomplish that much, then I'm passing it by. I know the adage, you can't judge a book by its cover, applies here, but I can't spend hours reading every case on the shelf to find one title that sounds like something I'd enjoy. So if it's not a game I already recognize, then the box art better pique my interest. Chrome Hounds was one of those games. It doesn't get a lot of love, but I certainly enjoy it, and I'm glad I picked it up off the shelf based solely on the mech graphic on the box.
I've not played Chrome Hounds, but I've seen that box art. I can picture that box art in my head.
It's pretty wild. I think no, I'm thinking of Metal Wolf Chaos, the game where the president has a mech. That's pretty ridiculous.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, that sounds pretty rad. To CJ's point, I think Indigo Prophecy, I bought that, or I put a pre-order down on that game based on the box art.
Is that the one where he's just like looking down at his hands?
Well, you can't even see his face really, but yeah, you see like a hand with like a bloody knife that he's holding or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And I feel like there's a bunch of like insane scrawling in the background.
Yeah.
It's pretty rad. It's still love that game. Absolutely.
Well, Jeff Swan also had a pretty cool little story that he popped in. He mentions Chrono Trigger first, which that is some sweet artwork, but
can we talk about that one for a second? Because that box art, you want to talk about staring at box art for a long time.
It's really well done. I mean, just the title alone of the way they wrote Chrono Trigger with the C being the clock and everything.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really well done. I've got the Japanese version and American version. Special
especially
edition
because
version.
the characters on Chrono Trigger look angry as hell. Like, what is her name? Marl or Marl?
Yeah,
Marl just looks like she is like, unleashing hell. I don't know. It was and then Frog is like injured at the bottom of it, or it looks like he's injured, and then Chrono's up with this sword that's getting magic power from Marl, and it was just, and then you actually do that in the game. Like that was one of my favorite things about Chrono Trigger was how you do combined magic from different characters.
Yes, that is cool. Wow,
and so you see that in the box art, and then you actually do it in the game was just so cool. Anyway. I'm sorry, I had to gush about Chrono Trigger while Jeff brought that up. Good call, Jeff.
Why? I don't think Chad's upset about that.
No, it's a great one. His story to follow it, he goes, also, there's a very rare release of Command & Conquer Red Alert that released on September 4th, 2001, and I picked up while working at Best Buy. Not only does the box art show 2 commercial planes flying into the Twin Towers, the second level of the game has you playing as terrorists who bomb the Pentagon.
Whoa!
I personally had to pull it off the shelves when I worked my evening shift on 9/11. Still have my personal copy and the sealed copy I bought that day because I knew if I was pulling it off the shelf because of some crazy coincidence, it would never come back.
That's a cool story. I did not know that existed.
I didn't either.
How crazy is it that both of those things... I mean, granted, the Pentagon wasn't bombed. I mean, it was, but a plane flew into it.
Yeah.
Wow, that's got to be worth some money, too. Holy cow. Command & Conquer was a PC game, right?
I believe at that time it was only...
Yeah. That's really crazy.
And you consider,
story, man.
I mean, the release was 5 days before the all going down, and yeah.
By the way, not to like plug somebody else's stuff, but Jeff Swan does a podcast called Nindy Nation, where he just talks about indie games on Nintendo. He's a seriously cool dude. Check out his stuff. Nindy Nation. He's like, all he does is just like the small little games, and he's just constantly putting out content. So follow him as well. All right, so let's go into the favorites. Zach, let's start with you. What are some of your favorites of games from the years?
Oh man, well, a lot of what I think the best box arts are usually the simplest. You know, you think of where it's just the title of the game against a simple background, like Ocarina of Time is a great example of that, where it's just a gold case and it just or Majora's Mask. I think is pretty similar. The Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Knight 2 and Jedi Academy also did this, where it was just like the logo and the name. I always think that those are the best. Final Fantasy 7 through 13-2 in Japan is just the title of the game on a box with one little piece of art in between the name and the number.
The Elder Scrolls games did that too. Like they just had that logo, like the Skyrim logo, like the dragon and the diamond.
Oh yeah, Skyrim did do that. You're right.
Or what was Morrowind did it? What was the 4? Oblivion had like that the symbol, which I haven't played the game, so I don't know. I assume it's one of the gates or whatever. The
yeah, you're right.
Gates of Oblivion. Like it's like it almost looks like a paragraph symbol or I don't know. I just love the simplicity of those.
Which Final Fantasy was the cover with the little white dude? Like, can't remember what they're called, but it was just that character right in the middle.
Oh, the little Koopo. They say
yeah,
Koopo.
Moogle. That's the name of him. I was going to call him Mowgli's for some reason, but that
Mowgli's. That's Jungle Book.
Yep.
No, that was Final Fantasy 3 in the States, 6 in Japan.
It still sticks in my head, like when you mentioned Final Fantasy, that image of just that little guy sitting there pops right out there.
Which is funny because he wasn't a major piece of that game, I feel like. He was, I mean, there's always a Moogle in Final Fantasy games, right? But it wasn't like a key element. I feel like you could have sold that game a lot better by putting those walking mechs from the beginning of the game in there.
Oh yeah,
like
you do like those mechs, man. You talk about those mechs quite a bit.
I do, man. I love that game. What else, Zach?
Yeah. Fatal Frame 2 always stuck out to me with the creepy little twin girls on the cover. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty great cover. There's another one that I know is on your list, Kath, that I'm not going to steal, but it's also a horror game cover that's pretty brilliant.
No, go for it.
No, I don't want to. No, I already accidentally talked about your Castlevania. You know, I'll let you.
I have so many box arts I'm going to talk about. It's not going to hurt my feelings. I'd rather talk about it now.
All right, Scott. Yeah, the Resident Evil 4 European cover is brilliant.
There's 2 versions of it, though, isn't there? There's one where the guy with the chainsaw is way off in the distance, but then there's one where it's like you're looking up at him up a set of stairs or something. And I always thought that box art looked so much cooler than Leon Scott Kennedy just holding a gun like a secret agent or whatever.
Well, and I feel like that's the story with so many box arts, is if you look at the European or Japanese version, it's always better. Dark Souls Japanese box art might be my favorite box art ever.
I have to look that up now.
It's just a character sitting at a bonfire.
Huh.
But it's just so, like, I mean, the bonfire is so important to Dark Souls.
Right.
That just really stands out. I mean, it's either that or Dragon Guard 3's North American box art. One of those two is probably my favorite.
Nice.
And that's like, it's the main character Zero kind of like defeated, being surrounded by her dragon. And it's, I don't know, it's just kind of like a somber, beautiful piece of artwork.
Very cool. Chad, how about you?
Look that up sometime. I'll just say look it up sometime, Scott.
Oh, I can't right now. It would be rude.
Well,
did you have more?
We've already gone through Fallout and Halo.
I'm sure I do, but Chad, what do you got? You like the Halo box arts?
Yeah. There's just nice images of, like you said, they're simple. There's not usually much to them. It's either Master Chief or it's a picture of the rings themselves or something out in space. Just nothing complicated. Although Fallout sticks out to me more, but one I didn't write down. I know I always talk about Lufia. Well, the original Lufia has decent box art. It's kind of your typical, there's the characters. Lufia 2 Rise of the Sinistrals, since it's kind of like a prequel sequel, you can actually recognize the character on the front, and it's kind of cool because then you're like, oh, wait a minute, that's who they're going to base this game on. And if you've played him, it's someone that he's part of the first one as part of the story, but it was a nice way to put it together for the second game. I think I just kind of a fun little cover.
Going back to JRPG covers, one that stood out when you said Lufia, which I know it's not the same series at all, but it is another JRPG, is Breath of Fire, which I've never played, although it's on the Nintendo Online, so I actually started it a few weeks ago. But the box art for Breath of Fire I always just thought looked so cool, because the main character, or the character that's in the forefront of that game, is casting magic by putting his palm forward, but he has his fingers like folded down, like kind of like that, but he's doing it with his arm extended fully, and I just always thought that box art looked cool. It made me want to play it, even though I have no idea. I'd never seen anybody cast magic like that in a movie or a game or anything before, and I just thought it looked really cool.
What about a Hadouken by Ryu?
Yeah, but he's doing that with two hands. You're right. He's doing a Hadouken. Imagine doing a Hadouken, but with only one hand. That's what it looks like he's doing on the Breath of Fire cover. I need to go back and play that game, because I started it and I'm like, this is my kind of JRPG. I miss so many JRPGs.
It take a while to get through, in your defense.
Yeah. But I had nothing but time when I was a kid. Nothing but time.
Oh, man, Resistance 3. Sorry, that's great box art.
Oh, is that the one with the skull of the alien?
And like the teeth of the alien is the New York City skyline or whatever. That is such a good piece of art.
That made me want to play that game.
I also forgot to talk about one, but man, I got a lot.
Go ahead.
What you got?
I don't want to walk over Chad. I don't really care about the BioShock games cover art, but the BioShock collection cover art is brilliant.
Oh, just the lighthouse?
But it's got Columbia in the sky, and it's got Rapture in the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you've beaten Infinite, you know how important a lighthouse is.
Right.
That is, I think that is it's so much for the fans. You know what I'm saying? Like, you kind of have to know the story of those games to understand why that box art is so brilliant.
Yeah. It's like Infinite's your typical. It's got Booker and Elizabeth on the front.
Yes, that's right. Some of the worst cover ever.
Yeah, stuff we've talked about that's been done before.
Unless you flipped the slip sleeve over for BioShock Infinite, it had an alternate cover that if you took the sleeve of it out and turned it over, it was like this awesome red cover with this cool art of the songbird. It is freaking fantastic. I actually, back when I had it on 360, I sold my copy to somebody on eBay, and he wrote me pissed off as hell because he thought I gave him fake box art, because I actually returned it to him with that box art instead and said, no, dude, you can just flip it around. That's how it was sold. And he's like, oh, okay.
I'll be checking that out once we're done recording.
Oh, you own the game?
Yeah, I've got Infinite.
Dude, just go grab it. We'll keep talking.
Yeah, we'll fill the void.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy.
You gotta see it.
Final Fantasy 15 also had a reversible cover art.
Did it?
It was just, but it was. I love it to death. It's just completely black. Even the back of the box, it was just completely black, and the only thing on that is the Final Fantasy 15 logo with that piece of art in between the number and the
like the crystal or whatever or something.
Yeah, well, it changes every game, right? Like 9 had the crystal in between.
Oh, okay, that's what I'm thinking of.
But and then like I know 13.2 had Sarah and Noel or whatever. But yeah, it's just it harkens back to the old covers, which I thought was super cool.
That is really cool.
There's a ton of good reversible cover art. I like Mass Effect 3 let you pick male or female shepherd. That was cool.
See, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, you guys. Hey man, you gotta pay attention.
What other reversible covers have I missed all this time?
Doom 2016. The reverse cover is it is in a modern updated graphic. Oh my god, the Final Fantasy 15 cover is so good. Sorry, Nate interjected. Doom 2016, the reversible cover art is a modern graphic recreation of the original Doom cover art.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's super freaking cool. There's you might be surprised at how many reversible cover arts there are.
Yeah, because they don't really like advertise it. It's just
fun fact, at least all of the id Bethesda games, every single one of them has reversible cover art.
Interesting. Did not know that. Did you look on Doom Eternal then?
Yeah, it's not as exciting. It's classier than the normal cover, but I can't even. I know I flipped it to it, but I can't really remember what it is.
Gotcha. Some of the ones on my list. I mean, and I'm not just saying this because I just recently played the remake, but Final Fantasy VII. That box art grabbed me so much as a kid because I just wanted to know how in the world does somebody swing a sword that big? I mean, that was like just such a big question mark to me. I'm like, is this game ridiculous or what is this? And just it's become so iconic. The whole like looking up at Shinra Tower, that it just put so many questions in my mind when I first played that. So that one sticks out. Actually, Kevin Honeyford mentioned that one in the comments as well too. So I got to give him some credit. Also, going back to the ones of simplicity that you were mentioning, Zach, Heavy Rain is one of my favorite box arts of all time. It is a bloody origami crane, just in the rain. Like it's like partially wet, but there's like little spots of blood on the bottom of it, and it's raining. And
isn't that the European cover?
I don't know. Oh, because the American one actually had like the characters on it, didn't it?
Right. And it also had like but it had Madison Page in her nightwear, even like the tank top she wears. It was kind of. They had a gun and boobs on the cover, which is the two things you need to sell to Americans.
Exactly.
But that European box art is something special.
That was great. And you already mentioned our Resident Evil 4. I know this one's newer, but I really like the cover of Far Cry 5, especially if you've played that game and you know the religious undertones in that game. The cover is made to look like the Last Supper. You know, where Jesus is sitting at the table and all the disciples, for some reason, are sitting on the same side of the table as him. But it's all characters from the game, including his family. And I don't know. And then what's even creepier is they somehow got away with it. They put a character like on his knees with his head bowed, with his back to the camera, that's got the word sinner like carved into his back underneath his neck, which... that whole picture was just off-putting and really set the tone for what that game was. I thought that was cool. You mentioned Castlevania. This is one of the artistic ones. You know,
yes,
Simon Belmont holding his whip, which is curled around, and he's looking up at the castle, and Dracula's face is like behind the castle, grinning, and it's just so cool.
A lot of the Castlevania ones did good covers.
Yeah,
not just the original. It's something they kept going for a while.
I'm thinking the one from, Simon's Quest was a pretty good one. Castlevania 4. I remember, Man,
the one on 64 is pretty.
Yeah, that game was awful, though.
Yeah, might be true, but the cover still looks good.
Life Force. Life Force was a shmup from NES that has this awesome shot of one of the bosses in the game that doesn't look like anything like that in the game. It's a giant snake or something like that. But you're looking at it head on. It's like you're facing this giant snake from behind the view of a spaceship. And it's just very artistic, very NES era. I love that one. Some noteworthy ones, I don't know if I'd call them favorites, but I just love when box art does something clever. Borderlands, the original Borderlands. Borderlands and Borderlands 2. I'm shocked, again, they got away with these on their cover. Borderlands, if you look at the cover, has a picture of one of the... What are those characters called? The crazy guys, the psychos? Psycho is holding like a finger gun up to his head, and coming out of the head, which normally would be gore, is just like... They made it almost like a thought bubble, and then it has actual characters from the game on there. But it's meant to look like the character shot his head, and instead of it being blood and guts, it is all this stuff that's, these characters or whatever. But it's very obviously, after you study it, you don't notice it at first. It's kind of like a blink and you miss it or never unsee kind of situation. Now whenever I look at Borderlands, I just see him putting a gun to his own head and stuff coming out of it. And they did the same thing with Borderlands 2. They have a psycho on the cover with finger guns to the bottom of his neck like this, and they've got 2 spurts coming out the top of his head that are, again, showing the characters. I thought that was clever. What else?
What'd they do for Borderlands 3?
I don't know. I don't remember. I haven't looked at it. I don't know if they got away with it. We're gonna have to Google that one.
I mean, he would have to also shoot himself in the head with his foot.
Yeah, because nobody has 3 arms, right? Have to get like Goro to do it.
Well, I said maybe in the Wasteland.
There you go.
It's a psycho, but instead of shooting himself, he's holding up some sort of golden weapon and 3 fingers for the 3rd game.
Oh, that's right. He's meant to look like a guru.
Yeah.
Like I think he's sitting cross-legged or something. There's roses. Remember the roses were a big deal at E3?
Yeah. And he's got a bouquet of guns like coming out from behind him, basically.
Yeah. I remember that now.
Still cool looking, but not quite to the depth that you get from the first 2. I mean,
yep.
Take the fact that they had the single gun and the 2 guns, being able to do that was kind of cool.
They probably didn't want to try that a 3rd time, or maybe they got figured out by that point. I thought it was bold. The other one I always thought was kind of cool, and I wasn't even a massive fan of it, but is Left 4 Dead. How they had the zombie's hand that was the thumb was like ripped off, so it looked like he was holding up a 4 sign. And then they did the same thing for Left 4 Dead 2, where it was a similar hand, but it was just the 2 fingers were left. I thought that was clever. I thought that was really cool. Same with Dead Space. The box art for the original Dead Space.
Oh, man, the box art of Dead Space is great.
It's just it just looks like an arm, and you have to kind of look a little bit closely to realize that it's a severed arm.
Yeah, and I do like the cover art for Dead Space 2 as well, where it's just the lights of the visor shining through in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty awesome.
Everybody knows we love our Dead Space here. So
yeah,
I got one more response to share with you guys. Actually, 2. I'm sorry. I could talk about box art forever, guys. There's so much good box art out there. But CB, Chris Berensmar, actually wrote in from New York, and I had to share his comment. He said, I could talk about box art for hours. I love the awesomely bad ones like Ghost Lion on NES that looks straight out of 80s hair metal video, to the amazingly simple ones like Portal or Metal Gear Solid. Overall, my favorites have to be the original Centipede box art modeled after the arcade side art, or any of the Konami NES silver boxes, Contra, Probotector, Top Gun, Castlevania. Yeah, we've talked about some of those. But the reason this one caught my eye is he brought up Centipede. And that brought me back to some of the Atari 2600 box art. I love the art so much. I actually have a book in my classroom called Art of Atari that goes through and just shows all the box art from several games from that era. If you ever get a chance, Zach, I don't know if you even played Atari 2600 games or have ever seen any of this box art, but look up some of the names I've got listed here, like Asteroids, Yar's Revenge, Berserk. There's a game called Demons to Diamonds that is a ridiculous game, but the box art just looks stunning. Even Space Invaders, Missile Command, and then Phoenix, Vanguard. These games made it look like you were going on this epic space battle or epic adventure, or you're just blasting aliens, and then you go play the game and they're like in these massive block pixels. Seriously, just go check out some Atari box art. It's just incredible. Love that stuff. Even NES games did a good job of it too. We talked about, like CB here mentioned, the silver boxes. Anyway,
if you're gonna bring up Atari, I mean, you could mention Rampage. I got to throw that one in there then.
I don't remember Rampage.
The original Rampage
was on the 2600.
Yeah, it's got their faces, like the different characters. One's in the background destroying something. You see a helicopter shooting down. The gorillas, I think's up front, like screaming at you, kind of in the forefront of it. So it made you feel like you were coming into some epic thing with these giant creatures, and they're destroying buildings already. So it kind of goes along with what you were talking about with the others.
That's awesome. I love this box art so much. When I was a kid, I don't know if you remember this, Chad. I know, Zach, you probably weren't even born at this point, but there was a little paper catalog that would come inside the Atari 2600 box. It was red, and it had blue and red checkerboard across the outside cover. If I could find one of those, that would be amazing, just for like nostalgia reasons. But it was a catalog trying to sell these Atari games, and they would list across the top all the box art, then a description, and then a screenshot of the game underneath it. You compare the screenshot to the box art, you're like, what in the world? But I used to go through that catalog and just stare at the box art and not even look at the gameplay or look at this game screenshot, because it was just stunning works of art that, like I mentioned a while ago, it looked like an oil painting. Somebody spent a significant amount of time making that box art. Like, I would put those posters up in my house if I could find them. That's really cool. Okay, last one I'm going to mention, I promise. This one comes from Thomas Becks, who, as you guys know, loves point-and-click adventures. And he posted a bunch of box art from point-and-click adventures, a lot of LucasArts ones. And he said, how can this magnificence not set your imagination alight and convince you to buy this? The box art was always important, especially in the early days of gaming. It showed you what you were supposed to see in the game, and that would help a lot in the 8-bit era. Like the movie poster, the box art is an art form in itself, one that hopefully never goes away, because even in the digital era, games need an appealing front. I just loved how he worded that, and some of the box art that he posted there just brought back some memories. I wanted to play The Dig so bad when I was a kid. I don't know if you've ever played that LucasArts point-and-click adventure. It is a simple box art. It is some astronauts that are all kneeling in a circle, and one of them has a pickaxe, and there's something in the ground that is just started a light pouring out from the ground. And that's all the box art is. I don't even know what that game is about. I don't know how the story ends. I've never played it. I've ever since I was 13 wanted to go back and play The Dig to see what that light was that they were trying to uncover or that they came across. Same with Loom. Just the two hands that kind of facing each other, conjuring some magic. Everybody loved Loom, and they talked about Loom in Monkey Island. There was the pirate that always wore a badge that said, "Ask me about Loom." I always wanted to play Loom, because I love the lacrosse promotion.
And he does have the Monkey Island covers on that one, because those were pretty iconic too, especially the first one with the main character leading the charge, but the whole island in the background and everything is surrounding it.
Guybrush Threepwood.
That's where it is.
Do you think if you brought back that style of box art, people would say it was corny or cheesy?
Wait,
think
you mean
some would.
The point-and-click ones or the old oil painting ones?
Or like the old oil painting ones, or just kind of the hand-drawn kind of stuff. If you didn't put your CG character on the cover.
I don't know. Because I feel like the characters on the box cover, not even in the cheap generic, guy staring either at the camera or at the floor or up in the sky, still looks like the character in the game.
Right.
There's not much of a need for you to fill in the gaps with your imagination like there was when it was all boxes. You know what I mean?
Other than for the art of it.
But how many people buy it for the art of it? You could go buy a print of it,
right,
yourself. You don't need to buy the game.
That's why I was asking the question, Scott.
No, I know. I'm trying to come up from the perspective of somebody that
Joe Schmo.
Yeah, that doesn't.
He's like, oh, this Nathan Drake guy looks serious.
Yeah,
I need to play this game.
Serious. He's
the guy.
Anyway, that was a lengthy topic. You got more to say, Chad?
No, if you're talking about bringing back box art now, I think there's a certain crowd that kind of expect the picture to actually be looking like the game. It's like we were talking about back in the day when it was, or what Thomas put it perfectly, is what the game is supposed to make you see in your head.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have a younger crowd they're not going to care about the beauty and imagination behind the artwork, or there's going to be that crowd somewhere because they're just cared about what the art looks like in the game now. At this point, they don't care about the cover anymore.
Right. That was a fun topic, guys, and as usual, we went way longer than I expected. Next week will be the first episode of the month, which means we're going to be going back to community questions, so be on the lookout for a social media post on Facebook, Twitter, or Discord, where we're going to ask you for questions that we will discuss on next week's show, and it will be the glorious return of Mr. Chris Behrensmeyer, who has been itching to get back in front of the mic for quite a while, so he will be calling in from his quarantined home where he's got to be for the next 14 days, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, we would like to say hello to some new members of the community. There are no new Facebook members this week, but if you'd like to check us out, head over to facebook.com/groups/the GoCast. We'd love to have you. Keep it updated with news and video game topics over there. Also, our Discord community is growing every day. We've got a link in the show notes for you. Oh, it's also on our website, thegamingauthor.com. Got 3 new members this week. Want to say hello to Alan Sheck, I am Wixbang, and A.O. Kennedy. Hope you guys are enjoying the community over there. It's a good group of people. Also, our iTunes review, Apple Podcast. Please drop us a review. Let us know what you think of the show. Let us know what we could do better. We want to make this show all about you guys after all. And then written reviews. We've got 2 written reviews available for you on the website. Actually, one's not a video review or a written review, but a video review. Rel, our resident video reviewer, reviewed a game called Filament that you're going to hear him talk about here in just a few minutes. And then Thomas has a written review for The Complex. And you know what? I got a third one as well. Spencer reviewed last week for us a game called Pixel Ripped 1995, and he's got his written review, which will be up on the site by the time you hear this recording as well. With that, let's go ahead and talk about the games we've actually been playing. Talk to me, Goose. What's coming up this week?
It is a surprisingly big week.
Yeah.
I was blown away. Right at the top, Gears of War's big spin-off, Gears Tactics, coming to Xbox One April 28th. That is a Xbox Studios game, so it'll be on Game Pass.
I'll try it.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you?
It's on Game Pass, of course.
Yeah.
I would probably be over the moon excited for this game if their big selling point wasn't like 50 hours of gameplay.
Yeah.
But that's a long tactics game, if you ask me. Then you got Moving Out, coming to PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC on April 28th. So looks like one of those kind of goofy games to play with friends.
All right.
Sakura Wars, a game all about love and robots, coming to PS4, April 28th.
Love and robots. All right.
It's like a mech action game, but also a dating visual novel.
All right.
Snow Runner, coming to PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and on April 28th. Did you watch the trailer for this?
I did not, no.
Chad, did you?
No.
Oh, okay, you guys suck. The trailer is... So it's a game about taking trucks off-road through the snow kind of thing to make deliveries.
Uh-huh.
And it has a slow, somber, very sad trailer about the togetherness of humanity. And they 100% use the font from Death Stranding in it. And it is which is, of course, because it's all about delivering. I guess that's the new genre. And it's impossible to take seriously.
Now I have to go watch it.
It's so magical, man. I do recommend it. Telling Lies, the follow-up to Her Story, coming to PS4, Xbox One, and Switch on April 28th.
I played that on my phone.
Telling Lies?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's probably way more at home there than on a console, I would imagine.
Yeah, because, I mean, that game is all about typing into a search box, and doing that on a Xbox is a miserable experience.
Does not sound great. The Inner Friend, coming to PS4 and Xbox One, April 28th. I'm ashamed to admit I do not totally remember what this game is about. Dread Nautical from our friends at Zen Studios, coming to PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC on April 28th. So that leaves its Apple Arcade exclusivity. The next entry in Streets of Rage, Streets of Rage 4, coming to PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC, April 30th.
Yes!
That looks fun.
Oh, okay. You guys are pumped for that, huh?
Yeah.
And
classic
then
beat 'em up.
Arcade Spirits is a dating visual novel all about romance set at an arcade. You pick up your arcade, boys and girls, on PS4, Xbox One, and Switch, May 1st.
You title your game Arcade Spirits? I get my hopes up for a little bit. I mean, I understand people like dating sims or whatever. That's not my genre. You call it Arcade Spirits, I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be like a collection of arcade games that maybe have spirit in the title, like Dragon Spirit. I'm getting excited. I'm going to play that game. No, this is a dating sim.
I really thought it'd be, like you said, a collection of arcade games. That threw me off.
Oh, well.
Yes, I was also, the trailer was something else. when I saw it. I was like, what? But The Inner Friend is it's like a horror indie platformer where your friend helps you out, little imaginary friend.
Like a limbo with a partner?
Yeah, kind of. Yes,
Okay.
That's not a bad analogy at all.
All right. I'm all over Streets of Rage 4. I'm going to have a hard time not buying that one this week because it's a week I can just play something on Game Pass for free. I can't imagine I'm going to love Gears Tactics, but I will give it a shot.
Yeah, I'm all in on Gears Tactics this week.
Yeah.
I like the XComs. I love the Gears of War. Smash them up. I hope it's a good game.
Especially Chad, is Streets of Rage, do we know if that has online co-op?
I haven't checked yet, but
Because, man, that'd be a fun game to stream together and play together.
It'd be a good step for them to do it because that game playing co-op is one of the best things about it, and it's kind of hard to play co-op with people right now. So if they could add that, it'd be lovely.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll have to check into it.
Yeah,
it does. Okay, looks like we're getting the signal from Nate that it does have online co-op, 2-player.
All right, 2-player co-op. So we may have to.
Awesome.
We may have to do that, man.
Yeah, let me know. I'm down.
Well, I guess I'll be the guy playing Gears Tactics in the corner alone.
I'll still play
all right.
that, but Streets of Rage, dude, they're fun games, especially when you got someone to play with.
They're okay.
I mean, yeah, I will agree with you. They're okay, but I had so much fun playing these beat 'em ups as a kid.
Yeah,
like punching barrels and eating a piece of chicken that you find in it. Like that just
that is iconic.
They're not the most brilliant games, no, but that's not why I'm playing it. It's fun. I'm punching a garbage can for no reason.
I heard they have a mode where you can actually change the graphics so that it'll actually go back to what the graphics look like in the old Streets of Rage games. And they changed the soundtrack so that it's like a 16-bit soundtrack as well. And you can just kind of go back and forth on the fly. That sounds fun.
That does sound pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you're both Chad, you're a Streets of Rage guy as well this week?
Yeah, I've been waiting to try it. I've been excited about it. They got a new character and all that. I mean, Streets of Rage 4, and they gave you a 4th character to choose from. Right?
All right.
Nice.
She looks pretty tough.
All right, so games we actually have been playing. Zack, I'm shocked it's taken you to play this game this long. I feel like it's been out for longer than a minute. You were playing the DLC for Control called The Foundation. And correct me if I'm wrong, this is only available on PS4 right now?
I guess so. I did not know that.
I didn't either.
I learned that from a disgruntled Go community member on Twitter, Sam Smith.
Yeah.
That sucks. That's really dumb.
Because I have my character all leveled up on Xbox One. So if I had a copy of the game, like say I rented a copy on PS4 and then paid for the DLC, would I have to start all over again? Or is the DLC standalone that you don't need everything you acquired in the base game?
Yeah, I mean all the dialogue references the ending of the game.
Okay.
Like you have to beat the game to play the DLC.
There's
you don't even access it from the menu either. You access it from, the oldest house.
Interesting.
So yeah, I think you would have to play the whole game to get to the end to play the DLC.
So I will be waiting until Xbox for this then, because I'm not going to play through the game.
It's so good.
It is good, but that's a lot of hours.
Yeah, no, that's a tough pill to swallow, they say.
So I after finishing Control, they left it in such a manner that left it for so many different opportunities for side stories, which the side stories in the original game were some of the best moments in that game. But is there any major story beats going on here that we need to know about outside of maybe some new objects of power?
If you remember Marshall from the main game, she was the head of security.
African-American woman?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And she kind of vanishes from the story. Yeah. A few hours in, you're following up with her. She was going down to the foundations of the oldest house, and things, I guess unsurprisingly, are not going perfectly down there.
Cool. Do you get some new abilities? I saw in the trailer it looked like she was grabbing wall and thrusting it towards the enemies and was sticking out like these giant spikes from a wall. That looked really cool.
Yes, you get so you get you get 2 new abilities. Okay. I was trying to make sure I wasn't spoiling anything.
Gotcha.
Because there is actually it's one of those instances of DLC where you're almost like the Spider-Man DLC last year, where it's like, oh boy, I sure feel bad for people playing the sequel that haven't played this.
Right.
You're gonna be missing some major stuff. But yeah, you get 2 new powers. One of them is to rip rock out of walls, and you can use that to make platforms. You can use that to make spikes, like you said, and that is a lot of fun. The spikes ability is super cool.
It looked awesome in the trailer.
Because you just like levitate over the battlefield or whatever, and then you notice a little like rock spike thing, and you just launch it up while you're doing that, and then like shoot a guy over here. It's just one more layer to the already very layered combat of Control.
That never felt overwhelming though. Like,
right, and it still doesn't. Yeah, and there is one new enemy type that is incredibly difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what? Then those spikes do some serious damage to them.
Nice.
So it kind of incentivizes you using that ability.
That was one question I wanted to ask you. It's been a while since I've played the base game. Did you find it easy to get back into that world again and pick up the controls or did you have to refamiliarize yourself with how the game mechanics work?
They do what I actually think is kind of a smart thing. And do you remember like you had mods for your character and your weapons?
Yeah.
I totally forgot about that. They reset that, so you have to reinstall them. So it kind of forces you to remember the menu.
Oh.
And I think that was kind of nice. But yeah, but your skill trees are all intact, and the ramp of the DLC, it gets harder much faster than the base game.
Mm-hmm.
But it does start you off with some pretty, easy enemies, so you can kind of refamiliarize yourself with because when you haven't played it in many months, the whole combination of levitating and rock throwing and shooting can kind of be overwhelming for the first 10 minutes or so, but you get back into it for sure.
Cool. Now, one of the things that you mentioned to me, and I want you to keep this spoiler free as possible, but you mentioned via text that there is a moment in this DLC that rivals the ashtray maze.
Yes.
How is that possible?
Well, I mean, I hate to disparage the ashtray maze.
Yeah.
No, it is, because it is just as unexpected. It is just as creative.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if it quite matches the ashtray maze, but it does give a run for its money. But I mean, ashtray maze is, one of the best levels. It's one of the best levels of games last year for sure.
Best 4 minutes of a game I've played in a long time.
Yeah, it's pretty tremendous.
It's pretty good.
But I mean, outside of that, there's no shortage of creativity at all going on at Remedy. There's a couple other altered items that you mess around with. There's a significant moment with a TV where you hang out with a TV for about 10 to 15 minutes. And I want to say hang out is the right word. And it's just a weird, man, which is what you want from Control, of course.
Yeah.
And you get to learn a lot more about the board. A little bit more about them. And it's kind of cool. And it has more character development for Jessie, which I was not expecting, because she has a whole arc in that game. But even here, she kind of learns that not every rule needs to be followed at the Bureau.
Man, you really know how to intrigue a guy to play a game.
If you like Control, it almost feels like, because it's no secret that Control did not sell well.
Mm-hmm.
And it almost feels like this is their opportunity to, we might not make a Control 2, so let's really do some stuff. And it's chunky, man. I've probably played 4 or 5 hours, and I'm not done.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, it's significant DLC.
I'm gonna follow up with you next week to see how that story wraps up.
Yeah, I mean, so far it's definitely worth the $15 this DLC costs.
Nice.
For sure.
All right, so Zach, I watched this trailer, and it leaves me with absolutely nothing. But Deliver Us to the Moon is an astronaut in space. At some point he's taken off from a planet.
Right.
What is the basis of this game? Really, what's behind it? It seems like you're kind of solo trying to do something from there.
All right. So they give you a huge exposition video at the front of this game. Let me see what I can remember. There's a new energy source discovered on the moon, and they have a system to deliver it quickly to Earth. The system goes offline without explanation, and a global blackout occurs. and now that energy source has been offline for 5 years, and they have not been able to reestablish contact with the moon. And it takes them because when the blackout happened, it kind of like reset a bunch of tech. So it's taken them 5 years to build a new rocket to go check on the moon.
So is that what you're doing? Your character is the one that's finally getting out there to check on where things are at 5 years later?
Right. And now that you're asking me about it, it is a little silly that they just do a one-man operation to the moon when the whole world depends on it.
Well, it almost gave me the feel with the trailer that there was no one else in the world to depend on, that he was pretty well going to have to be solo. But now the way you're saying it, it's like, let's get him out there.
Yeah, I guess they kind of phrase it as like it's a kind of a ragtag operation to get back to the moon. Yeah, I guess a base line story is not too solid.
What about the gameplay then?
Or clear? Yeah, the gameplay is like an exploration game, and it does kind of this interesting thing where you will play one level in first person and one level in third person, and it flip flops.
Huh.
Which I thought was pretty entertaining. And
did it help with the level, like the construct of the storytelling, or what was?
Yeah, and I'm gonna. So the first person segments are very much like a walking simulator. Okay. I mean, like you're just kind of going around trying to piece together what happened at the moon facility, and there's a lot of zero gravity stuff, which was a lot of fun.
Reminded me of, I think you mentioned this last week when you talked about this in the games that were coming. It reminded me of Dead Space without necromorphs.
Yeah, and that comes to life more in the third person section. I'll get to that. But the first person is a lot of puzzle solving, a lot of like slow paced exploration. You learn a lot of character stories, and all entertaining enough stuff. But then the third person segments are kind of, you're still doing exploring, but eventually like something's going to pop off, and you kind of have to do like a set piece moment.
Mm-hmm.
You might get exploded out into space because like a window burst or whatever. So you kind of have to fly your way back with your limited oxygen, something like that, or chase something down. And it's just kind of a neat little push and pull. They're like, the first person signifies to you, oh, it's quiet time, and the third person is like, oh, something's about to happen.
Oh, so it's kind of like like in a game when the music intensifies and you know something's going to go down, but they do that with the perspective of the camera instead. Yeah,
which is something I don't think I've seen.
I don't think I have either.
So that was a little novel.
Because generally, I mean, most games they give you the option. Like Fallout, you can play first or third person, so you can see the story and action elements however you want them in a Fallout. But this one, it's kind of sounds like they tied it into how the game is, how they want to present the game to you as well.
Right, and because it's so structured, those games you're talking about, like your Skyrim, your Fallouts, or even some old games that are like on Xbox, like Unreal Championship, where you could pick between first and third person. It always kind of felt like, oh yeah, you can play Fallout and for third person, but you're probably going to want to play first person.
Right.
Yeah.
Like this feels like each one was designed separately. You know what I mean? Like, because they don't give you the choice, it feels more catered to the perspective.
And this is on Game Pass, right?
It is on Game Pass. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. There are some technical issues. The frame rate is routinely dipping big time, which is kind of okay because there's no combat in the game at all. So it's all exploration, but man, it gets real choppy, real bad, which in the 0G segments can be pretty disorienting. Because you can, like, say you can rotate your character to try to align yourself better to the ground, so you get totally disoriented.
Yeah.
But if you do that and you like hold it down for too long, like the game will stutter, and then it'll like speed to catch up to where you are at the end of the button press.
Oh wow.
And it's kind of nauseating.
That doesn't sound good at all. But,
no.
I mean, it's playable, right? Or no?
Yeah, it's playable. Well, because there's no combat, and even the set piece moments are pretty. Like, it's kind of hard to hit a fail state in the game.
Right.
So that makes it okay, but boy, it's a lot to wrap around.
All right, that is.
Deliver Us.
Deliver Us the Moon.
which is a cool title, by the way. I just want to say that.
Do you
This
think
was
it's
Sorry, Chad?
Do you think it's worthwhile? I mean, it's on Game Pass, so people are going to say it's free. That's okay, but would it be worth someone's time if they don't have Game Pass?
Oh man, I don't know. I think they're asking 25. I would say it's not worth that.
Okay.
But as a Game Pass game, it's 4 hours. It's kind of a neat little sci-fi story. I mean, I have not finished it yet, but what I've seen of it so far, it's definitely worth the download. You got nothing to lose. But if you want like a quick, like a narrative game for 4 hours, it's a pretty good way to go.
Nice.
And they end at they sometimes say, your mission, deliver us the moon, which is cool every time.
It sounds kind of like a Bond title to me.
Sure. Yeah, but Moonraker is awful. I wouldn't want to see more of that.
It's your beef with Moonraker, man.
You like Moonraker?
I like every Bond because I like it because I should.
I like every Bond except Moonraker.
Wow.
We'll have to discuss this.
Yes, of course.
Patreon episode. Anyway.
The Bondcast.
Got a couple more reviews for you guys. I sat down and talked to Rel about not one but two games that he's been playing. First off, Filament, and secondly, The Shattering. Both sound really fascinating. I want you to check those out right now. Well, hey there, Rel. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great because I have Final Fantasy.
Yeah, I'd love to sit and talk with you about Final Fantasy for hours and hours and hours. Unfortunately, we are here to, well, not unfortunately, fortunately, we are here to talk about a game that you've been reviewing for us called Filament from Casito Games. So they actually hooked you up with a review copy of this one. I appreciate that. But I want you to talk to me about this because it looks like a puzzle game that's going to break my brain. And I mean that for me personally, not everybody else out there that's way smarter than me. But how does Filament work?
So the basic mechanics behind the game are actually pretty simple. You just control a little robot. It extends a line of filament out behind it as it walks. You have to touch the filament cord to power pylons in each little puzzle room.
By wrapping around it, right?
Yeah, it just has to touch it in any way.
Okay.
In any way at all. And then you have to get to the exit door. And that's it.
Okay, so far it sounds super simple.
Right. Super simple, except for the fact that you can't walk over your own line of filament.
Oh.
The puzzles only start out easy with, just touch the pillars with your filament and then get to the exit. Touch them all with the filament. It's fine. And then they change things up by introducing puzzles where only certain pillars are powered, are able to be touched at first, and you have to hit those, and that powered pillar will trigger another one that you then have to touch, and so it dictates the order. Oh, and then you have others where there's yellow and blue paint, and you have to tap an equal number of yellow pillars and blue pillars, and then touch the mixed pillar. Basically, they take this very simple concept, power everything, and get through the exit door, and they run with it with some of the most unique and mind-bending puzzles that I've ever had to tackle.
I wish I could share the look on your face with our listeners right now, because you have almost this exasperated look of expression on your face, like it's stressing you out even thinking about it.
Well, yeah, and I want to be clear. I liked this game. This was really good. This is a very well-made puzzle game because, like I said, it takes that very basic concept, power all the pillars, get through the exit, and then they just go nuts. Mm-hmm. They come up with all these different variants. They have, colored pillars where you have to touch red to red before you touch the blue or the green, and then color mixing ones. Create pink by doing red and yellow or something like that. And just all of these different variants that they do so well because it all makes a logical sense. There's no randomness. There's no I wonder if this is even possible. It's possible. You just have to come up with some new strategies to deal with certain puzzles. One, for instance, that drove me nuts was a section where you have to make sure your line of filament follows drawn lines on the floor. So your filament cord has to match those drawn lines. You can't just skip over, right?
I'm with you.
And so it requires you to sort of rethink how you've been doing these puzzles, because all of a sudden now you have to learn how to wrap around the pillars and go back the way you came and figure out different ways of doing that in order to succeed, because otherwise you'll never even power everything properly, let alone reach the exit.
Interesting. That sounds like it would melt my brain, like legitimately melt my brain.
I think it would. Like I consider myself a fairly intelligent person, and even for me, a lot of these puzzles were very difficult. And I'm currently in the bridge section, because this whole game takes place with you as an astronaut who, having boarded a private company ship. And so there's this woman on the bridge that you're trying to rescue, and you rescue her by solving these puzzles because reasons.
Yeah.
And the bridge just takes everything you've learned and remixes it, and it's insane. It's insane. I love it, but it's insane.
So do you get that same satisfaction from solving these puzzles as you do in, say, like a game like Portal, where in Portal or Portal 2, you solve a puzzle in a way that the game designed for you to solve it, but they crafted it in such a way that makes it feel like you came up with the solution that they didn't think of? Is that present here?
Sort of. There's certain puzzles where you can have more than one solution. Some of them are, some of them only have one solution, because in a certain section of the ship, you have puzzles where you have to touch the pillars in a certain order, and they even show you a picture saying which order it is, but then they block off part of the picture, and so you have to kind of deduce how to get through.
Like a process of elimination kind of thing?
Not really. They give you enough information to go by, but it's also, well, admittedly, it's something that I did with process of elimination, because in the later puzzles, I just couldn't even figure it out. But everything that they give you, you're able to solve the puzzle with. But with those, at least, there was only one solution. There were a couple that I can think of where there was more than one solution. And even one where one of the developers who was watching me stream this game a couple of weeks ago was like, yeah, we didn't actually plan for you to do that. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So how is the ramp up in difficulty? I know you said that at the beginning it's very, very basic as it tries to teach you. Does it just automatically get hard early on, or do you feel like there's a good ramp in the difficulty to kind of make it seem like you have those minor successes along the way?
Well, it's kind of a mixed bag. At first, yeah, they do a very good job of introducing to you the different mechanics, and with every new section of puzzles, because each one is separated by, it's basically 15 puzzles, 5 in each tier. So like the first tier, it teaches you how to do it. Second tier, it sort of ramps up the difficulty. Third tier, it ramps it up even more. There were a couple of sections that I can remember that didn't teach me enough to succeed without a little bit of outside help from the devs. Now, one of those was my fault, because there was a puzzle set where basically there's lines on the floor, vertical lines on the floor. Fat yellow line means power the top pillar. Thin orange line means power the bottom pillar. I ended up solving the first two teaching puzzles completely by accident. And so I didn't understand that was the rule. And so I spent more time than probably was necessary in the third puzzle of that series, just kind of figuring out what the heck I needed to do.
Gotcha. Well, it sounds like still, despite the frustration, it's good frustration. You're recommending this for everybody?
Absolutely. If you are a puzzle aficionado, this is definitely worth it. They're claiming over 300 puzzles. I didn't count. And in the builds that I've played so far, there hasn't been like a total counter, but you can probably figure it out just by multiplying.
Right.
It's $17 American. It's going to be out on Steam and Linux. There's going to be a Switch version coming later this year. For the amount of time that I've spent with it, as well as the challenge that it provided, it's definitely worth it. It is absolutely worth it if you like puzzles. If you are not a big puzzle person, if you took one look at The Witness and ran away screaming, probably not for you. But if you want a challenge, if you want something that's unique and both frustrating and rewarding, frustrating in a good way, then absolutely this is one to pick up.
Well, I know that your video review for this dropped last week. Where can our listeners watch that?
Oh, is it last week with this recording?
Yes.
Okay. Well, then they can watch that at youtube.com/relplays, RELLE plays. It will have gone live, I guess, last Thursday as of this recording. And like I said, Filament you can find on Steam, Switch later this year. And yeah, it should be out by now.
Awesome, man. Thanks for stopping by and talking about it. It sounds like a very intriguing puzzle game.
Yeah. I look forward to seeing you on the ship.
Sounds good, man. We'll catch you later, okay?
All right, later.
Well, hello, Rel. Welcome back.
I actually never left. I've been living in your storage closet just waiting for this.
Oh my goodness, that's creepy. That's creepy. Well, you did so great on that Filament review. We had to have you back to talk about another game called The Shattering. And from watching this trailer, this game looks like a psychological, artistic adventure, so to speak. What is The Shattering about?
It is more or less that.
All right.
It puts you in the role of John Evans, who's going to hypnotherapy to recover some lost memories, because there was some unexplained accident. And after getting hypnotized, you basically go into your memories, and they can change and be altered and, let's say, twinged a little bit by you exploring the environment.
Okay, that sounds very psychological. How does the gameplay work, though? Because I couldn't really tell from the trailer, just saw a lot of walking around.
Yeah, it's kind of a walking / pixel hunt type of game. The general gameplay loop is you go into a new environment. There's various things you can interact with. You're looking for whatever progresses the story, essentially, and gives you more information about what happened to John.
Okay. I think the art style is what stood out to me most because it's predominantly black and white. And I love it when games or film or even still picture art does this deal where everything is in black and white, except certain things are accentuated in color. Like in this case, the exit signs or the candles on a birthday cake or just what random objects have color that make them stand out. Is that just a theme throughout the entire game?
Oh, yeah. They do a very good job of accentuating like the important objects through color. And most of it is in black and white. Some things at points will be blue, indicating a certain emotion. Other things will be red, etc. And it's done really well. The environments as a whole can run the gamut from just sort of surreal, where, you know, you have your doctor's office is just free floating in a void of white. And you have to walk through that void to get to the next section of the game, and then you keep coming back to it and going out again to more like disturbing imagery where you're walking down a hotel hallway, you stop to examine a painting, and then you turn back down the hallway, and it's a little more dingy and dirty and not quite as nice.
But it's all still in black and white, and you can still get that detail from those different locales. That sounds fascinating. I immediately wanted to play this game when I saw the trailer because the art style just looks very, very cool. Did it wind up being satisfying when it concluded, like with the story and the gameplay? Did it all wrap up in a nice bow?
The story as a whole, I thought was really good. It has some connections to a movie that I'll share with you after we stop recording, because if I told you what it was, it would be kind of a spoiler to people who've seen that movie.
I think I know which one you're talking about.
Maybe. It's actually two movies. But yeah, I think overall it was very satisfying to play. The story was engaging. I kind of guessed where it was going around Act 4, but that was more or less the penultimate act of the game. Act 5 is just kind of the denouement where you just kind of wrap things up and the big plot twist is revealed. So me figuring it out at the end wasn't really that big of a deal.
Gotcha. All right, is this one you recommend our listeners check out?
Kind of not right away. The game's
Okay.
about 3 to 4 hours long. I have 4 hours logged in Steam, but funny story and more funny crying rather than funny haha. I played through the first couple acts of the game and then realized OBS wasn't open. So I hadn't recorded anything.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So I went back and re-recorded it. And so the first time around, I took about an hour to play through the first couple acts. The second time was like, I don't know, 24, 25 minutes, I think. So slightly inflated. I would call this a 3 to 4 hour game for sure, but it's $20 American. So it's kind of on the high end for that much. Now, if you're into those kinds of very sort of surreal and psychological thriller type games, you don't mind that it's kind of light on, it's kind of shallow gameplay because you're really just exploring the environment and looking for objects and whatnot, and just experiencing John's memories. If you're into that sort of thing, certainly worth. But if you're only like a casual enjoyer of these types of games, it is $20 for a game that's not very long and doesn't really have any replay value. So bear that in mind going in. I would recommend to most of our listeners, probably wait for a sale.
All right. Again, that game is called The Shattering. It comes from developer Super Sexy Software. And we got to give a shout out to Deck 13 for providing us the review copy of that one. Ralph, thanks so much for coming and sharing that experience with us. I assume you'll have a video review up for this game here in the near future, yes?
Yes, I'm going to be working on it from your supply closet. It should be up very, very soon on my channel. Probably as soon as your listeners are listening to this. It'll be at http://whatever, www.youtube.com/relplays. That's RELLE plays. And I hope you give it a watch, and I hope you at least check out The Shattering, because I did have some fun with it.
Awesome. Thanks again for being here, and seriously, this time, goodbye for real.
Goodbye for real indeed.
Catch you later, man.
Later.
All right, any other games you guys been catching up on? I already talked to you about Super Metroid. Don't need to go on that anymore.
Well, I got a chance to play the co-op biped with our very own Christina.
Oh, yeah, how'd that go?
The co-op is definitely the better part of the game. Solo was fun. It tells the same story, so you're going to get the same storyline no matter which one you do, but like when you're playing the solo, when you need two people, you either have an NPC walking with you or you're carrying around a doll that acts as something to help you create a trigger. So when you add the extra person in, it makes those co-op elements more fun and actually that much more rewarding. It felt really good solving the puzzles with her and getting through things.
Very cool. Sounds like you guys had a good time. I remember you talking about that on Discord, so that's very cool.
Yeah, we had a great time.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. Well, Chad, thanks so much for joining us, man. It was good chatting with you again. I think we got you twice in a month now.
Yay.
Yeah.
That was fun. I enjoyed it. It's
Awesome.
great being around talking to you. As the box art discussion, like you said, I was surprised what I remembered when you guys started talking about things. Like things were just popping in my head from back in the day. It's like, oh yeah, that too.
Yeah, I could have kept going, guys. I had to put a stop to my list.
Me too.
Sure.
Oh man,
I read some of Scott's lists before I started making mine because I didn't want to duplicate too much. So,
see, that's what I usually like when I write them down. I just need to hide them more often. Just like if we double up, that just makes more conversation. So.
well, I was gonna say the Castlevania, like that flowed in the conversation.
Yeah.
Everybody knows Castlevania.
Man, I can just like picture it in my head. That color palette for that art, for whatever reason, works really well. Green and reds, like you think Christmas automatically, but
it's an excellent composition.
There you go. I like it. Well, that is going to do it for this episode of The Gaming Outsider. Zach, any parting words before we get out of here?
Oh, brother. I don't know. No. I'm watching Clone Wars. That show is really good. It was really good before, but I'm nearing the end, and it gets dark, son.
You are the second person this week, now third person this week that has recommended me to watch that, and I can never get past the first season.
Skip it.
It just feels very Saturday morning cartoon to me.
I will say I liked the first season a lot, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But I can see why you wouldn't. But it's an anthology format, so you can just kind of jump.
Okay.
I'll tell you what it sold me on the show because I remember I watched the movie, the Clone Wars movie they did, which I did not like at all. watch the Mandalore plot storyline.
The Mandalore?
The Mandalore plot.
Okay.
It's like a 3-episode story arc in season 2. This goes for the listeners too. It has to do with the Mandalore. You learn about the Darksaber, which is important to the Mandalorian now.
Mm-hmm.
You learn about Obi-Wan Kenobi's love interest.
Mm.
And it's just, if that doesn't sell you on the show, then you're probably not going to like it.
Okay.
But that's what sold me on, okay, I have to watch the show.
So really, I got the whole, like, just make it through a first season. And
I'm giving you 3 specific episodes.
Oh, just skip right to those episodes.
Yeah, because every story arc is removed from the other. They don't really, until you get to like near the end of season 4, the storylines don't really build off each other.
Gotcha. Okay, fair enough. Chad, how about you, man? Any parting words?
Take care of yourselves out there. Stuff's crazy right now, and I think a lot of us need to remember to keep our heads in line, me included. So do what you
Agreed.
can, help yourself out. Don't ever forget there's nothing wrong with helping yourself.
I like it. I will say help yourself and go watch Westworld. If you are not watching Westworld, you are missing out. I will admit, I love the first season. The second season is more difficult to watch if you have to wait week to week, so you may have an advantage being able to binge it. But season 3 has gone some really interesting directions, and I am highly anticipating finishing up next week with the finale, because there's only 8 episodes this season. Also, friends of the show, Aaron Peterson and Troy Heinrichs, do a podcast called Beyond Westworld, where they dissect each episode and talk about philosophy, and they just do a really good job of entertaining and not just recapping the show. I highly recommend it, so check that out. But thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Please be sure to email us if you have any questions or concerns. Our address is feedback@thegamingoutsider.com. Until next week, I'm Scott Clark with Zack Parkerson and Chad Cusick, and we are The Gaming Outsider. And remember, there's no such thing as a bad game, just games that aren't for you.